I've covered on Washington Watch several times. Missouri is one of 20 states with legislation to protect minors from permanent, irreversible gender procedures. Now, this is something that the Family Research Council got behind a few years ago. First state, Arkansas, being one of the ones to adopt it. Now these have spread across the country. Well, despite these laws, which a federal court recently upheld, a Missouri health care provider continued providing these medical interventions without conducting the mental health assessments required by the state law there in Missouri. They're now subject to a lawsuit that seeks full restitution for the victims, civil penalties for each violation, and an injunction to halt further such violations. Joining me now to discuss this is Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. General Bailey, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, I'm just going to give you a warning up front. We only got about 30 seconds left, and we're going to come back in the next segment. But you are going on the offense here. Why?
Well, it's important to continue to fight to protect children. In this instance, you're right. These kids are victims of a system. They were defrauded. They were told they were getting health care, and yet were deprived of necessary mental health assessments and evaluations and mental health services that the defendant's own experts acknowledged they needed. And so that's why it's so important to continue to fight to press the suit forward to hold wrongdoers accountable.
Well, I'll just say this before we go to the break, General Bailey, having authored and passed a number of pieces of legislation, including one of the nation's first abortion clinic regulation acts. Passing the law is just not even half of the process. It actually is the enforcement that matters. And having an attorney general like you enforcing these laws makes all the difference in the world. On Friday, General Bailey filed a suit against Southampton Community Health Care Incorporated for providing gender transition interventions such as puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to minors without a comprehensive mental health assessment, which is required by state law. This was before the Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act went into effect following a massive legal win by his office last month. Now, the attorneys, I think it was ACLU of Missouri and Lambda Legal, which represents Southampton Community Healthcare, said in a joint statement that Bailey's actions are about nothing more than erasing transness from Missouri while he allows the top causes of child mortality to run rampant throughout the state. We will fight this desperate overreach. Well, joining me now, General Bailey. General, thanks for sticking around. So fill in the blanks here. This is the law. How do they think they can just get away with violating the law and someone's not going to do something about it?
That's exactly right. I'm proud to live in a state where our General Assembly passed and our governor signed into law a statute to protect children from sterilization. Never mind the fact that Lambda Legal and the ACLU in Southampton sued the state of Missouri. We are the defendants. We filed a counterclaim because their own experts at trial, when we were defending the statute, admitted that the accepted standard of care is that kids should receive mental health assessments. Now, I rejected this as care at all. There was no health care about it. But if their own experts are saying that kids should be getting these mental health services, then I have evidence that contradicts that they were actually doing that. And so now we're going to hold wrongdoers accountable. They put a marker down and we're going to hold them accountable to that marker. At the end of the day, we were successful in our defense of the statute, the first state in the nation to successfully defend the statute from legal attack at the trial court level. And now we're going to go back on offense and use their own testimony against them.
So that statute is now in place.
Yes, sir. As of August 28th, thanks to our defense at the trial court level.
And that is the law of Missouri, and they have to abide by that law. What are the penalties for violating this law?
Well, first and foremost, we can use the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act to go after businesses that are violating state statute. But also, I would point out that healthcare professionals who are administering this kind of questionable experimentation can be held accountable by the professional licensure boards. There are other legal remedies that can be used to go after these types of clinics. But I think the strongest and most potent medicine here is the fact that there's an individual civil cause of action with a 15-year statute of limitations. Because what we know is that a lot of the times the negative healthcare implications, the negative reaction that the human body faces after undergoing these procedures doesn't materialize in the normal statute of limitations. Right. So there needs to be extra time so these victims can bring their claims. And empowering the victims to have a voice in the process is one of the strongest remedies that our state has provided and is a model for other states.
I agree with that. The interesting thing about this, General, and in your investigation, you spearheaded the investigation there in the state. Normal procedures, such as the mental health assessments, which would normally be done before other types of treatment would have been administered, were absent in this case. It's like when it comes to transgender interventions, we throw the guidebook out the window.
Yeah, they broke all the rules in their race to sterilize children and break up families and harm kids. And that's why we're fighting so hard against this. You're absolutely right. Our expert at trial questioned that very same thing, said, why is it that in no other situation in which you have a diagnosable mental health condition would you ever race to hormonal treatments, especially when there's no science or medicine to prove that those are safe or effective? And yet that's exactly what we do in this instance. But again, the plaintiffs, ACLU and Lambda Legal, it was their experts who opined and testified that there should have been mental health assessments. Well, the evidence that we have is that these clinics were not providing those mental health assessments. They didn't live up to their own standards.
What else did you uncover in your investigation of the way these clinics that are operating when it comes to these interventions that they're taking on transgenderism that were outside the norm of medical practices?
Well, a few other frightening details that we uncovered were, number one, that oftentimes the parents weren't actually given informed consent. It was nothing short of coercion. That the evidence we have is that some of the patients, the clinics would target the parent most likely to acquiesce to demands for consent, and that they were told things like, do you want a live son or a dead daughter? And that therefore the clinic was injecting a suicidal ideation into a conversation that didn't exist before. That's not helping children with mental health conditions. That's making it worse. And again, that is doesn't meet the legal definition of informed consent. That's coercion. And that's why the evidence that we've uncovered is so frightening, and why it's so important to continue on the offense to uncover the wrongdoing and hold wrongdoers accountable.
Well, I appreciate, General, you setting an example for other states, Missouri, and in many ways leading the country on this issue, and very grateful for your work in protecting children and the rights of parents not to be coerced, to be forced into allowing their children to be experimented on. Always great to see you, General.
Thank you, sir. All the best to you.